Hey everyone, what's going on? If you're new to this channel, what I talk about is signs and symbolism and patterns that exist within my own life and within the mainstream media and how they coincide with these sports leagues and our told history and many other things. Everything in this world is interrelated. And there's also a code of letters and numbers that is called gematria, which codes letters into numbers. And it stems back to Jewish mysticism, which is called Kabbalah, that has a belief that God created the world by merging the letter with the number. But if you just watch a few of my other videos, you will see how this code is used within the English language, and it is used to script our sports leagues. Our mainstream media every single day is coded with this system. And I do talk a lot about my own life within this, but that is because this system exists all around us. But there are for sure people who understand this ancient knowledge and they have been using it to rule over us. That's why the majority of people do not know that this exists. And if you've been following my channel, what's so interesting about the Cubs losing here, if you've been following my channel, since June, I've been talking a lot about the Chicago Cubs and how they're synced up to the Cleveland Indians with this curse of Rocky Colavito that the Indians are cursed by. And I thought possibly the Indians and the Cubs would have a rematch within the World Series, but the Cubs just ended up losing. And what are the odds that the team that the Cubs get knocked out of the season with against, they're called the Rockies. Like, if you've been following my channel, I have multiple videos talking about the Indians and the curse of Rocky Colavito and how the Cubs are synced up to this. And now the Cubs get knocked out in the playoffs against the team called the Rockies. I'll explain a little bit more about why it's important that the Cubs lost on this day to the Rockies and how it's even synced up to the curse of Rocky Colavito. Well, let's just look at some of the coding that existed within this game. And I know I haven't been making that many videos, but I have been blogging a lot of things, and I had my suspicions that I was wrong about the Cubs winning and or the Cubs playing the Indians within the World Series this year. Just because recently we've been getting a lot of stories that involved beer. We had the Brett Kavanaugh thing where he loved beer. That's been a major story right now. And think about it, the Brewers, Miller Brewing Company, right? And think about the Rockies, Coors. They even play at Coors. So, and the last time that the Brewers were in the World Series was they played against St. Louis, who the Cubs lost in or the Cubs beat to go on to tie Milwaukee, right? And St. Louis is where Anheuser-Busch is from, right? So when the Brewers and the Cardinals played the last time they were in the World Series, it was all about beer. But anyway, when the Cubs lost to the Brewers, they lost with a score of 1-3. And the Brewers just so happened to get their 45th away win of the season. And in Gematria, if you write out the word 13, it equals 45, the frontwards way and the backwards way. We'll just write it out for you really quick. 13, it equals 45, and it also equals 45. And this was a big number that's super important to the Chicago Cubs. And now we get the Cubs losing to the Rockies, and this game was all about the numbers 45 and 13 once again. Think about it. The game went to 13 innings, and then the Cubs lost when they put in pitcher number 45 for the Colorado Rockies, right? So they lose in the 13th inning to number 45, Oberg, and the final out was Albert or Almora, right? Almora. Check this out. Albert Almora and Scott Oberg. Look at their birthdays. Albert Almora's birthday, April 16th. Scott Oberg, March 13th. That's a span of 1 month and 3 days. A lot like 13, right? Number 45 strikes out Almora to lose the game, right? Or, the Cubs lose. Their birthdays are 1 month and 3 days apart. 13 equals 45. Wrigley equals 45. The Rockies also got their 45th road win. Cubs equal 45. Illinois equals 45. They were cursed by the Billy Goat in the year 45. The Billy Goat's name was Murphy. That's why it was important that Daniel Murphy became a Chicago Cub. And I thought possibly it was a good thing for the Cubs this year again, but apparently not. Apparently it was a curse. But Daniel Murphy is synced up to the Cleveland Indians. He was born on Easter, and Rocky Colavito got traded away on Easter Sunday. Also, when the Cubs did win, it was all about Miami and Back to the Future and whatnot, right? And Miami equals 45. On Back to the Future, it says Sports Flash. Before they sweep, Sports Flash equals 45. The Cubs, before winning in 2016, they had only won the fourth World Series and the fifth World Series. And then they were cursed in the year 45. The word Major League equals 45 in Gematria. The word geometry equals 45. And think about the baseball thing being set up just like the Freemasonic square and compass, and baseball supposedly founded by a Freemason, right? And then think about that in regards to geometry. Everything they do is all about geometry. Another thing that was really important this year was the Stoneman Douglas shooting that happened on Valentine's Day, which is the 45th day of the year. And that was absolutely synced up to the Cubs and the Indians in the World Series. Anthony Rizzo of the Cubs even supposedly went to high school at Stoneman Douglas, and his birthday, and this is a different number than 45, but his birthday, 6 months and 7 days before Valentine's Day. The word Valentine's in Gematria equals 67. Stoneman Douglas shooting happened exactly 67 weeks after the Cubs won the World Series, beating the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland Indians equals 67 in Gematria. There's a whole bunch of other things that I've talked about, but hopefully I made the point. 6 months and 7 days before Valentine's Day, Valentine's equals 67. The Cubs win 67 weeks before. Cleveland Indians equals 67. And it was also the 19th prime number, and Nicholas Cruz, the shooter, supposedly 19 years old, and his name equals 67 in Gematria. And he was born exactly 19 weeks in the same year after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas died. 19 weeks, 19 years old, 19th prime number 67. His name equals 67. Valentine's equals 67. Come on now. And Marjorie Stoneman Douglas died on an important date to the Cubs, 14/5. And she 14/5. Chicago, Illinois equals 145. She supposedly died at the age of 108. Remember, the Cubs broke the 108-year curse, and, they won the World Series getting 8 runs in the 10th inning. And I talked about that way back when. There's much, much more to the 108, and just see some previous videos. But I talked about why 108 was also important to the curse of Rocky Colavito with the Indians, because his birthday was August 10th, which is 8/10, or in most parts of the world, they rate it as 10/8, 108. And, also the word geometry equals 108 as well. Geometry equals 45 and also 108 frontwards, 108 backwards. And the guy who supposedly founded it was Euclid, whose name equals 108. Because that's how all of this works. Euclid, the father of geometry, and geometry equals the same as Euclid. So this number was really important to the Cubs. And even if you recall, there was a tribute game where the Cubs played the Miami Marlins earlier this year, and that game was synced up to the Cleveland Indians. And I'll show why that's important in a second. It was 6 months and 24 days before the World Series begins this year, and that's a big number with Rocky Colavito. Rocky Colavito in gematria equals 624, right? And he was traded to the Detroit Tigers for Harvey Keene. Detroit Tigers equals 624. A big thing I was talking about in 2016 when I said the Cubs and the Indians would play each other months before it happened was the Aroldis Chapman trade. Aroldis Chapman equals 624 in gematria. This year, the Indians just so happened to play the Detroit Tigers on the date of 624 even. And would you believe that the Colorado Rockies played the Miami Marlins? They played the Marlins on 624 as well, and they got their 38th win or they lost and stayed on 38 wins. And Colorado equals 38. It's the 38th state. Colorado Rockies equals 163, and that's the 38th prime number. And if you went from 624 to the day that the Rockies and the Cubs game began on October 2nd, just so happened to be 3 months and 8 days, what are the odds, That big 624 number I was talking about. But anyway, remember, the Cubs had a tribute game to Stoneman Douglas, and that game went 17 innings, and then Chris Bryant, number 17 for the Chicago Cubs, hit the home run of the game. It was scoreless until Chris Bryant hit it. Number 17 hit a home run, his first home run of the season. And the beginning of that game had 17 seconds of silence, and they had a 17-year-old Stoneman Douglas survivor supposedly throw the first pitch. Then the game goes 17 innings. Come on. There were 17 victims and 17 people injured in the Stoneman Douglas stuff. You had the David Hogg, 17 years old. There was one kid, I can't think of his name, but he was in the Dwayne Wade jersey. He got buried on the 17th day of February, which is weird. Just, like less than 3 days after he supposedly got murdered at Stoneman Douglas on the 17th. Dwayne Wade born on the 17th day of the year, and now he's going to retire after his 17th NBA season in NBA at gematria equals 17. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas died 1 month and 7 days after her birthday. That game was all about the number 17, but it was also really important to the number 13 as well, because the game went 13 scoreless innings to get to the 17th, and I can't even remember it all. Let me find the post here. I know I pulled it up. I thought I did anyway. Yeah, this guy, Starlin Castro, number 13, he got the one run that was in the third inning for the Marlins, right? And Chris Bryant got one run in the third inning, and, he hit his home run or whatever, number 17. So 13 and 17 were the two people who got the scores, one run in third inning, the 13, right? And it involved number 13. And remember, Chris Bryant got injured, and then he was replaced by number 13, David Boat. I also pointed out that the 6th prime number is 13 and the 7th prime number is 17. And this was a tribute to the Valentine's Day shooting, right? 13 and 17. Oddly enough, my full name in Jewish gematria equals 1,317, 1317. And, I documented a whole bunch of other things that were important to this 1317. I just wanted to make a point that the Stoneman Douglas stuff was really synced up to what happened within this game and why the Cubs lost to the Rockies. And the Rockies are important to the curse of Rocky Colavito. And if they're not, it makes me wonder if the Rockies are actually just going to go on to the World Series. But we will see, Another thing that's important about this game was that it happened just after midnight. So it was Central Time where they played this game, and the game came to an end at like 12:06. at night. So it was just after midnight, making the game end on 10/3, which is the day that leaves 89 days in the year. And if you notice from earlier, Colorado Rockies also equal 89. But so does Billy Goat. Billy Goat equals 103, which is fitting for, the Cubs to lose on a date of 10/3. But Curse of Rocky Colavito at Gematria equals 103 as well, with the S exception, because S can be a 9 or it can be a 1. Or S can be a 10 or it can be a 1. Because the rules of numerology, S is the 19th letter, so it would be 1 plus 9 is 10, but you'd also have to break it down again, so it could be a 10 or a 1. So, you know, one of the Curse of Rocky Colavito equals 103. The Cubs finished the season with 95 wins then, and then they stayed on 95 wins. Cleveland Indians just so happened to equal 95 at Gematria, right? The Cleveland Indians also equal 95. The Cubs got 95 wins. Chicago Cubs equal 91. That's why in a post I talked about why I expected the Indians to finish the season with 91 wins, because Chicago Cubs equal 91. And I expected the Cubs to actually tie the division. I even talked about that in my post before the game even happened, because there's all kinds of tie symbolism in the word tie. Equals 114 at Gematria. That's the 114th World Series. Think about Milwaukee, too. Milwaukee, they have the big M on their deal. M is the 13th letter, right? And they also have Mike Moustakas now. Mike Moustakas, MM 1313, which also breaks down to 4. 1 plus 3 is 4. When I first knew that sports were absolutely rigged, it was because of Mike Moustakas, who hit his 4th postseason home run in the 4th inning, making the score 4-4 at exactly 4 p.m. And then, his name is Mike Moustakas, MM, the 44. The Brewers also have Lorenzo Cain, who was a 2015 Royal when they won the World Series. And think about Daniel Murphy, who played for the Mets, who the Royals beat that year. It was something really important. Ben Zobrist was on the Royals in 2015 when they won. Now he's a Chicago Cub. Oh, what's the base runner? The fast base runner for the Cubs. He also, I can't think of his name for some reason. Terrence something. Can't think of his name. Terrence. He also played for the 2015 Cubs. So there's definitely something important to that I missed while following a bunch of this coding. Anyway, while I was watching this game, and I'll get back to this is important, I guess, but when I was watching this game, one of the things they talked about was the Notre Dame versus Virginia Tech game. And I thought, why are they bringing up the Notre Dame Virginia Tech game on one of these ads? And maybe it's going to be on the same channel or something, I can't remember. But let me pull it up here. What I noticed on the screen was that Notre Dame is ranked number 6 and Virginia Tech is ranked number 24. That's what they showed on the screen. They advertised this game during the Cubs game. Number 6, number 24. Like, what are the odds of that, right? 624, yet again. And I knew there's something important. And then it never dawned on me that the Cubs were playing the Rockies. And, I'm talking about how they're connected to the curse of Rocky Colavito. So I just wanted to point that out really quick. In regards to the game coming to an end then on October 3rd, 103, Curse of Rocky Colavito equals 103, Billy Goat equals 103. The Cubs just lost then on 10-3, and they lost 169 days after the anniversary of Rocky Colavito being traded on Easter Sunday of 1960. 169. And in Gematria, Rocky Colavito also equals 169. I think Detroit Tigers do too. Maybe not. Yeah, Detroit Tigers also equal 169. You see the overlap. You know, they both equal 624, 169. The Cubs just lost 169 days after the anniversary of Rocky Colavito being traded. And they were actually coached. The Cubs were coached by Lou Boudreau that season. And Lou Boudreau was the coach of and player of and the MVP of the World Series the last time the Indians won the World Series. And it was the 45th World Series. Remember all of the stuff I talked about earlier in this video? It was important to 45. The Cubs won, or the Indians won the 45th World Series. Also, on the 114th day this year, think about the 114th World Series, and Terry Francona's 11-4 in coaching the World Series, and his dad died this year, and his dad was born on 11/4, and he was synced up to Rocky Colavito, and he even played with the Cleveland Indians when Rocky Colavito played there. But anyway, in regards to and all of that, the Cubs beat the Indians on the 114th day this year, and they beat them 10-3. And the pitcher for the Cubs was Tyler Chatwood, who equals 624 and also 169. Talk about a perfect sync for the Rocky Colavito stuff that I'm talking about, right? And Tyler Chatwood also, before he played for the Cubs, he played for the Rockies. What are the odds of that? You know, he played for the Rockies. So there's also all this beer symbolism that I was talking about. You know, the last time the Brewers were in the World Series, they played St. Louis, where Anheuser is, so it was Anheuser versus Miller. Now the Rockies win, and they're going to go on to play the Brewers. And the Rockies play in Coors Field. Think about it. Tap the Rockies, Coors Light. If you read out Coors Light gematria, it equals 417. And that's a lot like the date that Rocky Colavito got traded in 1960, right? So 417. If you've been following what I've been talking about with my own life as well, my mom's maiden name was Murphy, and her brother Barney died in connection to the Cubs and the Indians in the World Series in 2016, and he died on the 101/14, right? Tons of stuff with it, you know. That's why this year is important. 114th World Series. My grandma even died on the same day that the Valentine's Day shooter was born, Nicholas Cruz. But my uncle Clancy died this year, and he died on the same day that Rocky Colavito got traded. 417. Same day Barbara Bush died as well. But 417. And Clancy in gematria equals 624. He died 6 months and 24 days after my grandma died, and he died 6 months and 24 days before my birthday. And my son was born on January 17th this year, which is 6 months and 24 days after 624. And he was born 6 months and 24 days before Rocky Colavito's birthday this year. What are the odds of that? You know? And my uncle dies on the anniversary of him being traded. I mean, no way, you know. My dad's name equals 114 in gematria. He was born on April 11th, which in most parts of the world they write it as 11/4. And 6 months and 24 days after his birthday is November 4th. 114. And his license plate, I even noticed, has the number 624 on it. And much more. You really have to go back and watch like hours of my videos. It's a lot to re-explain. But one thing about my Uncle Clancy that was super important is, you know, he wasn't like a huge drunk, but when he drank a ton. Like everything, everyone around here knows that he could drink faster and more than pretty much anybody. You know what I mean? So in regards to beer, it's very important to him as well. The three things I talked about when he died that I knew were important were the Chicago Bears, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. He loved the Bears. The Bears are having an awesome season right now. He absolutely was the biggest Nebraska Cornhusker hater ever. They haven't even won a game yet, and he loved beer. And now we get this beer theme that's going on with the World Series. And I'm telling you, it is. Look at the Rockies, the Rocky Colavito, Milwaukee, the last time they were in the World Series. Harvey Keene was the coach. Harvey Keene was traded for Rocky Colavito. And the Atlanta Braves used to be the Boston Braves, and that is the team that the Indians beat in the World Series in 1948, the last time they won the World Series. The Braves also used to be from Milwaukee, which is interesting as well to point out. And, just super interesting. And think about the death of Burt Reynolds that I talked about in one of these videos, and how it was important to Smokey and the Bandit. And in that movie, they're bootlegging Coors beer to Atlanta, right? And now the Braves make the playoffs. Like, the Braves are really important to the coding with the Cleveland Indians. And so were the Boston Red Sox, because the Boston Red Sox were the team that the Indians upset in a one-game playoff to go on to beat the Boston Braves in the World Series, ruining an all-Boston World Series. And then, of course, Terry Francona was the coach of the Boston Red Sox when they broke the curse of the Bambino, right? They broke the curse of the Bambino with Terry Francona and John Lester of the Cubs, who pitched in the game where they lost against the Rockies. He played for the Boston Red Sox when they won the World Series and whatnot. So there's it is super crazily interrelated. Possibly it is all for the Boston Red Sox or something, I'm just trying to figure this puzzle out. But if you're watching this video and you don't understand how it's all interrelated, you know, just think about all these things. All of these things are interrelated. They're put together like this on purpose. I mean, even Babe Ruth died in 1948, the year that the Indians upset the Boston Red Sox to go on to beat the Boston Braves, right? And he died the same day Aretha Franklin died, and that's the same day Elvis died. And Elvis was from Memphis. That's where Russwood Park burnt down the same day that the Indians traded Rocky Colavito, and they played the White Sox in a exhibition game in Memphis, and then that park burnt down and whatnot, Russwood Park. Anyway, I'm just gonna leave the video there. There's so much more, but I don't want to. It's already confusing enough. I don't want to lose people, but there is this ultimate cat theme that is going on in my life. Even while making this video, I'm sitting in my daughter's bedroom that she never comes in, and it's like super uncomfortable. And because I can't go upstairs because my baby's down here, but I'm sitting here making the video. I gotta pause the video because the stupid cat jumps up at the window and he just sits there and won't stop meowing. I don't know if you could hear that in the video, but it's like, dude, just go away. Like, my cats are so annoying. And oh, I don't know. I'm sorry. I just can't stand my cats anymore, Ed. It is funny that Casey Jones, just type in Casey Jones' channel. You should be able to find him on YouTube. But he pointed out that cat equals 6 and also 24 in Gematria. So it's very important. But I keep having all of these crazy synchronicity things with cats. A lot of it has to do with Family Guy. But I mean, it's outrageous. This one was, I just randomly looked up, I was writing this blog post up and I randomly looked up at Family Guy that was on TV. I didn't even turn it on and they started talking about cats. And I look up the episode and it's the one called 420. And I just started thinking, just reminds me of Colorado, Rockies, right? Just craziness. 420, think about it, legalizing weed. Remember 420 in Gematria equals 88. Marijuana equals 88. In California equals 88. And they legalized that what was it? Then they legalized weed 420 days after the bill or whatever. Can't remember it all, but geez, just so ridiculous. You ever wonder why it's called 420? It's because 420 equals 88, just like marijuana. You know, that's why prohibition ended in the year 33 because the word alcohol equals 33. You know, tons and tons of examples. So we'll leave it at that. I'm gonna make some separate videos. Hopefully, I'll make these. I gotta just put it together in my head before I can even make some of these videos because the synchronicity is just at its finest, and it's. I wish I had more time to sit down and make these videos as they go along, and then just make a playlist because I get these crazy things that happen to me constantly. Just I don't even have enough time to document it. Even tonight, my well, whatever. I'm not even gonna go into it, but moral of the story is the kid I was working with, who's my cousin, and he was training somebody else. He brought up this another kid, and my cat's back. Can you hear my cat? Like I even oh my whatever. It's a different cat even, but my cousin brought up the fact that this kid brought up in school. He made a joke about 9/11 or something, and not even joking, the next person who came in the store that I work at was that kid. And I went up to him later and I said, "Don't you think it's funny that kid came in right after you were talking about him? You know, synchronicity." And I don't even know the kid's full name, so I can't look at it right now, but I'm gonna figure it out and I'm gonna figure out what the meaning of that was. So we'll leave it at that. Hopefully you get it. It's still maybe I don't know. Maybe it's not for the Indians, but there's something I'm supposed to see with this Rocky Colavito theme and how it's synced up to my own life and whatnot. So it's craziness, you know. That's why whatever. I'm done talking. I'm done rambling. You get the gist of the video. See you in another video. Have a good one. Peace.